am excited to be here, and I really appreciate this opportunity that Click has offered to me. But I really am impressed with what Click offers to their community, to their library staff, offering this workshop again, providing your colleagues all of these subject matter experts and helping them find connection, learning, and in the inspiration really to do their jobs and to enhance their quality of life at work and at home. So moving from reactivity and responding, it's an initiative, I'm sorry, it's an intentional, and let me get intentional. It's an intentional decision. And we do this through self-awareness. It's an in the moment kind of action that we have got to choose one thought over another. So let's just say that we are all in a room together and a snake falls out of the ceiling. Now, our reactions are each going to be unique. Some of us might kill another or almost kill another to get out of the room. Some of us might freeze out of fear right where we are. Some might stay out of curiosity and maybe lean in a little bit. And then there might be one or two individuals in the room that aren't afraid of snakes, that may have some knowledge about snakes, and they could educate us about the threats. But each of us are going to feel differently about the snake, and the snake is just the snake. I am Sean Handlovich, a mental conditioning coach and consultant. And over the last 15 years, I have had the privilege of working with organizations and thousands of individuals just like yourself, individuals who have chosen to serve their community. This includes firefighters, first responders, individuals in the law enforcement field, medical professionals, as well as flight attendants and pilots. Now, unfortunately, there will always be members of your community who are demanding, difficult, and can be downright disrespectful. And yet you are required to remain composed and compassionate and professional, which is why I became passionate about sharing skills and tools to enhance one's ability to regulate their emotions and manage stress on and off the clock, ultimately improving your quality of life. Now, today I'm going to share some of those tools with you. And these are tools to help you identify and interrupt, to stop that emotional thinking, which is what causes us to react to a given situation. So often this leaves us frustrated, disappointed, and even disempowered. I'm also going to show you how you can shift to that responding mindset, even in those difficult situations, with intention to make and manage this conversation in a way that you win-win, and you're able to do this with respect for yourself and for others. These tools will also help you enhance your personal relationships, enhance your productivity, and your ability to influence the outcome of any situation according to what your ideal version of yourself is. Because I think it's safe to say that no matter where we are or who we're with or what we're doing, we want to be able to do this as the best version of ourselves. So in order for us to make this shift from reactivity to responding, we have to manage that perspective with discernment and intention. The snake falling out of the ceiling. This means increasing our self-awareness and to learn how to recognize and understand our individual default reactions and why we feel the same we do. Our individual and unique default reactions to what is going on is going to vary between each of us. Now, some of us might have similar reactions and feelings, and some of us may have very different feelings and reactions. So why is that? It is our perspective origination, the origination of where this feeling came from. Your perspective and my perspective of what is right, wrong, good, bad, hot, cold, threatening, or safe, and our emotions associated are coming from our experience, our exposure, our learnings, our lessons, our observations of others. That is where this begins. And this all is stored in our subconscious mind because we each grew up in a different environment. Maybe mom, maybe dad, maybe friends told us how dangerous snakes were. And then maybe somebody never mentioned how dangerous snakes were and it became a hobby. This subconscious mind that's controlling how we see and feel and perceive the world, it's our automatic reaction, and it is controlled by our subconscious minds. Today, we are going to get conscious about those perspectives, ours and others. So at the end of our presentation here today, I hope that you're going to think and notice your ability to intentionally shift your mindset, choosing one thought over another. I hope you feel curious, empowered, and I hope you feel a sense of relief. And then I hope you're going to find some tools here that you can start practicing and that you're going to be eager about your own self-awareness and the ability to self-regulate. Now, self-awareness is really our ability to perceive and understand the things that make us who we are as individuals. This includes our personalities, our actions, values, beliefs, our emotions, and our thoughts. Now, we regulate or we run around in 5 pretty standard areas of our lives, but we are always the same person, whether it's in our personal life, with our families, with our community, at work, or even at leisure. But this self-awareness is driven by the concept of self. This is not just the physical self, but it is also how we see ourselves and how we think others see us. So we're talking about self-image, the physical part. We're talking also about our self-esteem. How do you evaluate or judge yourself? These things come from our environment and exposures as well. And if we're more likely to judge and evaluate ourselves harshly, we are also more likely to do that with others. When it comes to our ideal self, this is where our beliefs come from, our values come from. And this can also be reflective of our spirituality and religious beliefs. But it is really the ideal self is that best version of us. And we've already been the best version once, the best friend, the best employee, the best mother, father, husband, wife. We have already been there once and we know what it feels like. So being self-aware means that we know who we are, we know where we are, and we know what we're supposed to be doing here. Because the way I behave at home with my kids is not the way that I'm going to be with my boss. So what is the ideal version with ourselves and how do we regulate to get there? It is our choices. We have choices, we have decisions, and our decisions ultimately take action and then results come out of the actions. Now, choices I want you to think about as really, this is our free will. This is our power, our right. The decisions that we make are what supports the choice that we make. And the decisions are analytically based, right? So it's how we support the choice. We are responsible for the decisions, which ultimately lead to the actions and then the results. By the way, no action is a decision too. So let's just say that I invest in a local gym. That is the choice I have made. This is a financial, which requires the decision to support going to this gym. I also need to make decisions to support this choice, which includes my schedule. When am I going to go? So let's just say that I'm one of those eager beavers and I get up bright and early to go to the gym. That's what I'm going to do. If I hit snooze and if I don't get out of bed, I am not supporting my choice to join this gym. Therefore, my action of not getting up and making it out the door, the results, probably not going to get the results I was hoping for. This is where the power comes from, is in our decision. And that is an intentional action for us to take. Our actions support the choices we make. And when that happens, it makes life so much easier. And the more intentional and methodical about those decisions, it raises the level of success that we will have It will also increase the joy that we will have along the way to our destination. So the next time you're feeling a little stuck and frustrated, ask yourself, what is the choice? What did I decide? What did I choose to do? And then are my decisions supporting that choice? And how am I showing up there? What is my physical? How am I feeling about myself here? And what is my best self looking like when I get here? This also includes the job we choose. So you chose the job. I think it's an amazing job to serve your community. Why did you choose this job? Was it close to home? Was it part of your career path, your education background? Was it financial? Whatever your reason is, ask yourself, why did I choose this job? I will also tell you, when you chose to apply for this job, I can tell you community service probably wasn't a surprise. What you're giving your community, ask yourself why you give it and what it does for you. So by a thumbs up, how many of you are familiar, or by a thumbs down, familiar with the polyvagal nerve chart here? It's also been known as the window of tolerance. Great. For those of you that are not familiar with it, what we're really talking about is how the nervous system responds to our emotions. Emotions are contagious, just like Jim was saying, to tell everybody to have a good day. Emotions are energy in motion, and energy is contagious. This reminds me of a story when I heard Jim talking. So imagine, if you will, I'm driving home. The weather is really terrible. I get into a fender bender on the way home. I'm just so cranky. It's taken me longer than I wanted. And when I got home, my kids came to town and I wasn't expecting it. My bad mood went from a good mood like that. It is contagious. And so, with that being said, we can choose one thought over another. With this polyvagal response, we're talking about that fight, flight, or freeze, like the primitive part of our brain. And then we're also talking about our social engagement and where we come from there. So the freeze, or the dorsal vagal, this is really more of that startle, not able to process, not able to do anything. So if you've seen movies, or you yourself have ever experienced something that is so startling, what happens is your blood pressure drops and then your heart rate drops. So this is why we tend to pass out. Okay. What happens is that the body shuts down in a way to protect ourselves and to conserve energy. Then we have the sympathetic, or the dangerous. I can, but my body still wants to protect myself. It's not shutting down, but it's telling me it's no longer safe, it's no longer friendly, and there could be danger involved. Now, our blood pressure actually rises here, and the blood that we're using normally with our thought process dumps into our limbs, and as well as the blood that normally runs our digestive system. So that's why we kind of get upset with our stomachs. But all of that blood rushes to our limbs, because going back to that primitive brain, back in the day when we had to run from dinosaurs or saber-toothed tigers, you needed all of that blood to pump us up and to prepare us to either fight or to flee. So the fight is where we're getting frustrated, right? We want to fight back. We want to defend ourselves. We feel some sense of power that we can manage. Okay, I can. Then there's the flight, where there's a fear base there, where you've got this panic and that I can run away, right? So these are the two emotions that kind of come up in the body and how the body responds to it. We have that increase of temperature. Again, we may perspire, our cheeks get flushed, rapid heart rate. We've got this adrenaline rushing through our body. We struggle to focus actually with our eyes, and we struggle with eye contact as well. So there's also then we have the social engagement, and this is where we operate from a static, this is all good, right? This is where I'm very safe, I'm engaged, This is where joy lives. This is where everything's comfortable and going along just fine. Now, here we've got trust. Again, we're feeling safe. Our blood pressure, our heart rate, everything operating at its normal pace. Digestive system, our voice tone, and eye contact. In this space and between here and the sympathetic, this is where we bounce around all day long. We can ride this wave from morning until night. And we can regulate this once we begin to recognize how stress and how our nervous system shows up in our bodies. We can learn to regulate that. Let me give you an example. So we chose the job we chose, right? The success in our ability to stay down here in this social engagement from the beginning of the day actually started last night. So you know your schedule, you know your route, you know what you got to do to be ready for work. Did you go to bed on time? Were you prepared for tomorrow morning? Now, when you get up in the morning, did you set your alarm? Did you hit snooze? Did you try to get those extra few minutes of sleep? Was the outfit that you were thinking about wearing, half of it was clean, half of it wasn't, so you had to regroup yourself? Did you have half the food you wanted for lunch? And when you got in the car, you found out that you needed to stop for gas. Anybody ever been in that situation besides me? All right, so not just me. This is where we start in this heightened, and we're taking ourselves into this flight or this fight, right? I'm fighting this. I'm frustrated. I'm angry. I'm not fearful of it, but I'm really frustrated with it. When we become aware and I begin to notice how that stress shows up in my body, I'm noticing the stomach ache. I'm noticing my cheeks getting flushed. This is where I can make some of those intentional, deliberate choices to self-regulate. And I can bring myself back down into a calmer state. Again, these things, what we'll do is by practicing this self-awareness, how does it show up? And I'm gonna give you some tools on how we do that. But the more we practice that self-awareness, the more we can get ahead of it and control those emotions from the beginning. Now, this little map is modified by an author. Her name is Marley Adams. Change your questions, change your life. And I really enjoyed that book. It really did help me think about the questions I was asking. But I also saw that this choice and decision, because we kind of make them one and they really are two different things, there are ways that we can control the questions we're asking with more of a self-regulated, externally focused, where we're more in control of what's happening outside of us. So changing your questions really, again, has to be intentional. It means being aware of who we are as our best selves and who we are as a threat. That self-awareness is what requires us, again, to recognize when I'm in my best and when I'm not. So what happens, right? Let's just take one of the scenarios you guys maybe have faced. A parent approaches you at the children's desk and complains about the Twilight books for promoting witchcraft, magic, and underage sex. Now, the parent doesn't think that this material is appropriate for the library and feels that this collection should be removed from circulation. What do you do? Now, the situation happens prior to you getting to this point. So now it's happened. What do you do starts here. When we go into that primitive response where we are being reactive, we are being emotionally hijacked. Going back to the snake, right? I've seen this before. It happened to me. I heard about a friend. What is going to happen in the future, or what happened in the past, takes us out of the present moment where we can be more intentional and aware that this situation is unique. It is unique because there will never be another February 1st, 2024. And this person, whether you've interacted with them or not, their morning started out different than your morning, right? So it is different. When we can be more self-regulated, we tap into where am I, who am I, and what am I supposed to be doing, right? I am this person. This is how I see myself. I am at work, and this is how the best version of me is going to handle this situation. I am externally focused on the solution, asking ourselves more questions. What do I know? What can I control? And what don't I know? This is where we kind of are now getting towards a resolution. We're being curious about what's possible. The compassion is a big part, and compassion really starts within. We don't know why this mother is triggered by this series being in there. We don't know why. That's not your job. Your job is to provide books, and that's your job. But the customer service part is what makes it or breaks it for you and for them. But thinking about a win-win doesn't mean that the books come off the shelves, and doesn't mean that the mother changes her mind. It means that there's a compassionate respect at the end. Now, going into the reactive side of things, we start the blaming, we start going into the past, we're in a fear-based, we are internally focused where we want to protect ourselves. Who are they? What are they thinking? Again, I've seen this before, my familiarity of hearing about it before. When we can pause and, like Jim said, just breathe, take a breath, get present, sigh, let that air go, find a peer, find your resources, maybe resources you can give to the mother to go and on her own empower her to look into it and find the solution. We can shift lanes and we can get more into this externally focused, curious mindset to find a win-win versus continuing down this path. Why are they so stupid? What is wrong with me? How did I get here? Into this frustrated disappointment, lack of respect, and lack of fulfillment. So we talk about just breathing. I've got three basic forms of breath work here. Anybody with a thumbs up, are you familiar with this type of breath work or any form of them? So breath work is really an intentional, deep diaphragmatic belly breathing, which research has proven triggers the relaxation in the body. So we have the physiological side, and the physiological side is a deep belly breath that I can kind of relate to as if we were sobbing really hard, right? And we're trying to catch our breath. What happens with a physiological sigh is that when we take a deep breath with the physiological sigh and we inhale all this air, it kind of tightens, it kind of opens up the chest, sorry. And then as we exhale the air, it kind of drops that diaphragm, pushes out all that air. And then the heart is telling the brain, the heart's going too fast. We need to slow the heart down. We need to slow this down. So by doing this breath work 1 to 5 times can actually instantly reduce the heart rate and your stress level. Now, when we talk about the mind-body breath work, the mind and the body working together, the lungs are one of those organs that is automatic and controlled, right? We don't do that with our spleen. We don't do that with our liver. We can't control how they function. So when we use our mind to control our lungs and our breath work, really brings us into the present moment. Interesting fact that I learned from working with firefighters and first responders is that when they come to an event or an accident and they start asking about dates and phone numbers, they absolutely are assessing your cognitive abilities, but they are also recognize that the logical brain and the emotional side of our brains cannot work at the same time. So the fact that we're having to think of logic numbers and we're hysterical and scared, they can't work together. So we must close down, and we've got to tap into that frontal cortex where all of our data and knowledge is stored. So we have to slow down to do that. Little tip and trick for those of you with small children that are really anxious and upset. Sometimes we say, let's calm down. I'll count to 3. Have them count. have them count and jump into that logical side of their brain will calm them down as well. So that's where this breath work with mind body, we're choosing a count, inhaling for a count of 4, holding that breath comfortably for 2, exhaling for a longer count to 4, again, releasing and slowing down the heart rate, and then coming back, holding that breath for a comfortable count of 4 before we release again for the count of 4. It's the counting and controlling. Now, the box breath was actually developed in the Navy as a way to be able to handle those startle events and to get them present. So it's just literally a 4 box, right? We're inhaling for 4, holding comfortably for 4, exhaling for 4, holding for 4. Now, with both of those last 2 techniques, they really are something you can do in meditation, something you can do while you're in a walk. But I encourage you to practice this mind-body connection with your breath. Now, the physiological side, that's the one that you can use in a moment. Now, maybe not directly in front of a patron, but you could do it in the car, or you could do it after a patron leaves. And the way that the physiological side works is that we inhale as much as we can, and then we squeeze in an extra little inhale, and then we exhale until we just can't push any more air out. So I want us to try it here together. So first, let me demonstrate what it looks like. And again, if you think about a sobbing baby, or even when we go to sleep, we kind of do this too to regulate our oxygen level. So it's going to look something like this. Now, I might be over exaggerating a little bit just for the camera, but what we really want to do is just deep breath through our sinuses. Now, if you're more comfortable breathing through your mouth, you can absolutely do it that way. But ideally, we're taking 2 swift, deep breaths in through our nose and then exhaling all that breath through our mouth. So join me and let's try it one time together. So again, on our breath, we're going to breathe deep once, deep again, and then let it all go. Ready? Keep pushing. And now come back to your own breath. The other thing as you're coming back to your breath that I think is really valuable is that you recognize your breath. Recognize that sense of air on the tip of your nose. Sense as it's coming through your lips. This is your breath. And that's another way that in a moment you can really get present, is just by getting in and connected with your breath. A couple other in the moment kind of situations or tools that you might be able to use. So of course we talked about through the path, the decision-making path of empowering the mother. So ideally you've got resources, and ideally you can give your patrons some resources and send them on their way and they can find the solutions on their own. Pretty sure that doesn't happen as often as you probably would like that solution to work on its own. So another technique that you can do is, let's just say that you've got a patron who's coming in and the person actually has their phone up and obviously they are recording as they are talking to you on behalf of a concerned citizens or the concerned citizens. And so this individual starts asking you questions, rapid firing you. Does the library have the American Librarian Association Bill and Rights posted in the library? Does the do you reference the ALA Bill of Rights in your library policies? Does the library adhere to the reference of the ALA about minors checking out anything? No more, they're just not even letting you get to an answer. One of the first tools you can do is, as they're rapid firing and you can sense in your body, your skin's maybe getting a little flushed, counting backwards, again, getting yourself present. Go ahead and let them, you know what they're looking for. Begin to count backwards. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. This is an internal thing that you're doing to be able to bring yourself back to being present. Then you can interrupt them and say, just a moment. Now, when we say just a moment, ideally this person's going to stop. Take an uncomfortable pause. Go just a little bit longer and just stare at them as if this moment is just going to stop for you. Okay. Being thoughtful. Now, maybe at this point, you can reach for another resource. You can go get a peer. You can tell them you're going to go get some resources for them. This is your moment to stop the rant from coming. Okay. You are going to throw this person so far back. They are going to be emotionally hijacked. Why aren't you reacting? I'm looking for a reaction. I'm trying to record a reaction for the concerned citizens. But when you are able to hijack them, you now have control of the situation. The physiological sigh, maybe this stop, pause, uncomfortable pause, make it uncomfortable. Stepping away, go take one of those physiological sighs. And then if nothing else, of course, asking for your peer support. But there is times when you just have to walk away. Just walk away. So let's take the situation from the mom again, okay? Concerned mother. Reminder, we don't know what her story is, but you still have to be able to process and to be present. So the first thing when this person comes to you and they're clearly emotional, I mean, that's really what's going to show up for you. What do you feel? Right? We're going to notice it in our body. Stop and notice. What do you feel? What is the familiarity? So almost what is your story? Immediately, we're going to go to that familiarity. Is your story about what somebody else told you? Is your story about what you experienced on your own before? What's your story? And stop and breathe. Just listen. Okay? Being present. What resources can you tap into right now? Is this mom going on a rant that you need to do the internal counting? Is this mom going on a rant that you need to use this pause? What resources do you have and do you have to use right now? Asking yourself, what do I know? What can I control? And what don't I know? And then we make decisions that are in a win-win, that you are the one that maintains respect. All right, so we're going to do something together here. When we talk about emotions, so often we're really not tapped into our emotions till they're really getting going, right? So we're going to share emotions. Now we have positive, neutral, and negative emotions. And these don't always have to be just your go-to emotions. But what we're going to do is we're going to do something called a chat waterfall. And we're all going to share some emotions in our chat. Then we're all going to hit send or enter at the same time. So we can see all of these emotional words coming through at the same time. We can review them together. So I'm going to invite you to put a positive, neutral, negative emotion of your own in the chat. Don't hit send. It's really important that you don't hit send. So take just about 30 seconds here. Think about maybe your own unique responses that you have, or just whatever first pops into your mind. Type that emotion into the chat. Again, don't hit send or return. I will tell you when. So take that 30 seconds now. I'll keep track of the time here. And put in your emotion. Again, don't hit send until I tell you to. And we're going to be able to see that all come through at the same time. All right. Looks like we've been about right at 30 seconds here. So what we're going to do now, I will count us down. On the count of 3, we're all going to hit send or enter. So now 3, 2, 1, send. Oh my gosh, I love these. It's so much fun. All right, so let's take a couple seconds here and let's go through them. Maybe just scrolling by them on your own, maybe kind of give a little heart or a thumbs up on those that kind of stand out for you. And let's see. Oh, flustered. Yes. I feel that easy, calm, anger. I love that. Ashley, nervous, but trying to regulate. Yeah, I like that. Liz, content, fine. Anger is positive. Casey, I can see how anger is better than numb. I see that. Very cool. Splendid. All right. Oh, joyful. I love that. Meh. I saw that once before. Meh. I love it. Thank you guys. That is fun. I hope you had fun with it too. So, ways that we can increase and enhance our emotional library of our own is that you'll take time to reflect as you're doing just your daily things, right? Reflect as to how things are going for you. Watching the news, different stories on the news. What feeling comes about it? If you don't watch the news, kind of like myself, you can just do it through watching TV, commercials, interactions you're having, just becoming more aware of them and making a note of them can be really, or just mental note, can be really helpful too. All right. So we talked about in the moment tools that you can have or you can use. This is a toolbox that you can use on your own, practicing and strengthening your self-awareness, understanding who you are, why you do the things you do. So we talked a little bit about meditation, and I just always like to start by saying meditation is not about not thinking. Meditation really is about self-reflective and being able to just listen. I do encourage emotional journaling. This is where we can put down, what actually did happen and what were the stories? How did I dramatize it? If I didn't add in the juicy stuff, it would just have been a drive to work, right? So we have to juice it up just a little bit. So using these tools to be able to just really tap into who you are and how you're handling things. The type of reactions that we want to be aware of is just like those things where we're jumping to conclusions. These are like the dramatization that we do. The all or nothing thinking, right? Catastrophizing. That's something that a lot of us do, including myself, when I talk about, the commute. Well, I got to make it dramatic, otherwise it just is going to be boring. So just being more aware of these things. The last two pieces, or the bottom half, are things that I just think are really valuable. Asking for feedback. Say that with the situation with the concerned citizen about the ALA bill, maybe somebody else was there, and when it's all gone and the person's left, you've got somebody that can give you their perspective of how it went, or you can share the story and get perspective. I am all for accountability partners in every area of our life. I think we all need somebody that's going to be able to be candid with us and we can be curious of their perspective. I personally have got a couple people that are my support system. They tell me when my breath is bad, when I have broccoli in my teeth, and I really wish they were there that day, that it fit, but it shouldn't have zipped. So we all need someone in our corner that has our back, and somebody that's going to back us up as well. And then just take ownership and accept what it is. Don't make yourself wrong for what you did. What do you know now that you didn't know then, right? What can you do differently? Take it as an opportunity to learn about yourself. And then the compassion piece. When we talk about the win-win, we don't know other people's stories and they don't know yours. And compassion is not intuitive. It is something we have to work at. What is natural for us is to protect ourselves. And when it feels uncomfortable, it feels safe, it feels unfamiliar, naturally we want to protect and defend ourselves. So the more often we can be compassionate with ourselves and notice compassion, we can strengthen that ability, because it is something that we are going to have to do in the moment. Do not judge ourselves. Asking ourselves questions, being kind. We all have struggles. Everybody has struggles. One thing I always remind everybody that I speak with: humaning is hard. For me, for you, and for others. We don't know. And we walk around judging our insides by everybody else's outsides. Be kind to yourself and to others. So I hope you've gained some new tools here, and I hope that you will put them into practice. I hope that you've learned how to use your own ability to recognize the reactivity is about the moment and responding is the empowering focus on the outcome. I hope you recognize your own ability to intentionally and deliberately shift your mindset, choosing one thought over another. I hope you feel curious about how to use these tools. I hope you feel empowered. I hope you feel relieved. And I hope and I ask you to commit to practicing just one of these tools. So let's do this really quick. Either if you've got a pen and paper, let me see here. If you've got a pen and paper, hold it up. If you don't have a pen and paper, I'm going to ask you perhaps put it in the chat or even in your device. Put down one of the tools that you learned, real briefly, one tool that you learned that you are committing to use for the next couple days, into the weekend maybe. That would be your choice, that you can control your decisions, guide the actions and the results. Let's just do about 15 seconds here. I'm not giving you a lot of time, but look, breathing, breathing, breathing. Yes. Isn't it funny how we need to remember to breathe? The extended pause. John, you're going to love that. It's one of my favorites. Love it. Look how empowered you guys are. The biggest resource you have is in this chat. It is your peers. You have the resources. You've got the support. You've got your tool. Use it. Empower yourself and just breathe.